Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse, the Wednesday, November 5th edition of the Daily Pulse. I'm your host, Teddy Panos, coming to you from the WellPoint Studios on the morning after the Lowell election, that long slog through the campaign season and the early voting and election day is finally over. Or is it? A lot of drama. A lot of suspense in those numbers last night. A lot of surprises in them as well. And we may not be done yet with the election. And we're certainly already underway in the next election, the one that 11 people vote on instead of the full citizenship of Lowell. Joining us here to unwind all of it and recap it and tell us what it means is none other than His Worship, the former mayor of Lowell, a man who knows a thing or two about election nights and the mornings after and the feelings that you go through.
You know, at this point, don't miss it.
Bill Samaras is joining us. Good morning. How are you?
Very good. I mean, I think the candidates, whether they won or lost, I think they're glad it's over.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of work.
Except for two of them who are not sure yet if it's over.
Correct.
And we're gonna talk a little bit about it, having some conversations this morning. A lot of people keep saying that, 7-letter word, recount. Will there be a recount? What has to happen for them to be a recount? Well, one of those I can definitively answer for you, what has to happen and how it will work. The other one, we're still waiting on Dan Finn to decide, but we're going to get to all of that. Yep. We'll talk about that race, man, what a razor-thin margin in District 3, Belvedere, your district. What a night of surprises in other districts. 3 new city councilors will be serving come January when they get sworn into office, and we'll look at the numbers. We'll look at all of it with former Mayor Bill Samaras. Let me just quickly thank our Daily Pulse sponsors, Ray Booten, licensed realtor in Mass and New Hampshire, certified appraiser in both of those states as well. So if you want to buy or sell a home, a business, or a commercial property, you need to find Ray, and you can find him easily enough online, realestaterayBooten.com. That's realestaterayBooten.com. And thank you as well to WellPoint for hosting us here in the WellPoint Studios. It's the only health plan offering healthcare benefits exclusively to Massachusetts GIC members. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. Thank you, Ray. Thank you, WellPoint. We're going to thank a few other sponsors in a little bit. You know the dealio, gang, but let's get right to it. All right, Bill Samaras, the morning after, what did you see last night? What happened, and what did the voters of Lowell say to us?
Well, one thing that I think the voters of Lowell stated very clearly was that if you work hard, you probably can get my vote. And that was seen tonight, because last night, because the thing is, people have been talking about the districts and how hard it is once somebody's elected to a district, you can't get them out.
Yep, that was the conventional wisdom, and I was as guilty as anybody of thinking that was the case.
But if you look at downtown, and Councilor Jeunesse worked hard as a councilor. I don't think he had anything in his record that would say to people, we want to eliminate him from being a councilor. But you had McDonough, who worked very hard to win that seat. And so what happened? People reward hard work.
Yeah, and
I'm not saying that Wayne didn't work hard, but the thing is, it's from what I can gather from the information that's come forth, Mr. McDonough worked even harder.
He did. He worked hard, and he tapped into some new voters, some stuff that we found out that we talked about. I talked a little bit about it Monday and yesterday and during the election show last night. To you, what was the story of the night? Was it the razor-thin margin in Belvedere? Was it Sean McDonough upsetting Wayne Jeunesse? We pretty much knew that Sidney Liang was going to beat Paul Ratayam, so we knew we were getting a couple of new counselors. But in a race where we almost got another new counselor, the Upper Highlands, Marcos Candido. Was that the story of the night, or was it Vesna Noon finally getting back on top, reclaiming the top vote-getting spot?
Well, Vesna got on top because he worked hard, very hard, and he had a very big, strong team to do that. But the issue, there's 2 issues. Of course, I was very interested in what happened in Belvedere, okay, because knowing the two candidates and what have you, and how hard they worked. I mean, my prediction was within 50 votes, but as it was getting nearer and nearer, I said it's going to be even closer. I mean, you could see it. You could almost smell it in the air. And so, but that's an issue of, it wasn't a surprise. It was who worked harder, two good candidates, and who won. But the thing is, I think there's a change in the air. And it's been caused by what's going on in Washington. Because I think when you look at Councilor Dakota, he also has been a good counselor, has done what he had to do, and has represented his constituency well. But Candido, hard work, and coming from another socialist base, surprised a lot of people. He was within 50 votes, less than 50 votes, I believe, from becoming the counselor in that district. Yeah. So there's a change in the air politically. Nothing to do with, say, the city manager or the councilors here, but what position you're taking I think almost at a national level.
Yeah, we saw a little bit of that come into play. And let's call up the numbers first of all. These are the unofficial results. Last night we were missing a couple of precincts during our broadcast. And thank you, by the way, to all who tuned in. We were missing a couple of precincts in Centerville and then a couple in District 6, the Lower Highlands, the 𝐃𝐚𝐢𝐥𝐲 district. They've now been added in by Will Rosenberry, the city's elections director. And these are the numbers. No surprise in the at-large race. Vesna Noon did top the ticket. Close. It was neck and neck with Eric 𝐃𝐚𝐢𝐥𝐲. They were literally a couple of votes apart most of the night. I think that 𝐃𝐚𝐢𝐥𝐲 district coming in late is what catapulted Vesna Noon over Eric 𝐃𝐚𝐢𝐥𝐲. Rita Mercier third, but that's a strong third. That's almost 1,200 votes ahead of Sixto de Jesus, who ran a good campaign. He was a good candidate, but it is tough citywide.
Well,
to beat a good, strong base of incumbents.
You had three strong candidates. I mean, who've all proven that they can do well citywide. Mm-hmm. So, and there was nothing on their record to say they were, let's say, good for the picking. They weren't.
Right. It was a tall task for anybody to undertake. On the school committee, that at-large race, no surprises. The only drama really was who would top the ticket, Danielle McFadden or Connie Martin. Danielle McFadden did. First-time candidate. Bob Hoey third, a distant third, and Zozaniku a distant fourth. So there will be your two new school committee members. All of the incumbent district school committee representatives were running unopposed. So you did talk about how one of the themes was hard work will get you elected. And Marcos Candido proved that. He came this close. Sean McDonough got over the top. Sidney Liang got over the top with hard work. Danielle McFadden, I'm not going to say she didn't work hard, but she did a different kind of work. Instead of the door-to-door door knocking, she did more community events. She was at pretty much every community event, every sporting event, young kids, every school event that she could get to, she got to, and then she was all over social media. You've talked a lot since we've started doing this regularly on Wednesdays about how social media is changing the game in politics and in elections and how you get your message out. So we now kind of have two competing tacks. And if you're a candidate in 2 years, do you want to do the hard work that McDonough and Candido did, or do you want to do the work the way Danielle McFadden did?
But look, Danielle, though, has name recognition.
Correct.
Okay. Even when the Lowell Sun was, we'll say, larger than it is, when Kendall was, and Danielle was in different programs, and she was in the paper many times, okay? And many times since then, she's still been in the paper. When you think of a candidate like Belinda did all of those things, but she went house to house because she did not have name recognition. So she had to work very hard as a new candidate in Belvedere to get that. So name recognition, I still think, has a lot to do with it. And Danielle had name recognition.
She did.
And she had a good record of being involved in projects that people like.
I would not advise most candidates, especially first-time candidates, to take that tact unless you have the name recognition that Danielle had. One thing, though, you mentioned Danielle and Belinda in the same breath. Yeah. They were the first two to jump into the race. Danielle jumped in November of 2025, right after the presidential election. I think a week or two later, Danielle got in. She got a head start. Belinda Duran had declared herself in January. Dan Finn didn't come out until, I think, April, maybe even May. Did that 3-month head start, and I'm going to put the vote totals up there because you folks need to see this again. District 3, Belvedere, Belinda Duran, 1,143. Dan Finn, 1,139. For those of you mathematically challenged, 4 votes out of nearly 2,300 that were cast separated the two. Did Belinda Duran getting into that race in January as opposed to the spring help her establish connections and commitments that maybe Dan could have gotten into earlier?
For 4 votes, no. The thing is, the Finn family is well known, okay? So they had name recognition. And I'll go with myself. You know, I didn't announce till actually the end of July into August that I was literally going to run.
But again, that was the norm back in the day, by the way, right?
No, everybody had announced in around March. I mean, March was the time that most of the announcements were made. April, May. But the issue was I had name recognition.
You did. That affects when you can get in and out.
So timing wise, so I wouldn't say that. Not for 4 votes.
All right.
But the issue with 4 votes, or when you're close, if you're close and you're lost, the issue is, my God, what could I? Did I call? I should have called Uncle Charles. Whatever. You
know he's going to be looking at that voter roll of who turned out and who didn't, and being really angry at 4 or 5 people who didn't show up that would be normal supporters.
Let's put it this way: even winning, you look at
I'm sure Belinda's gonna look through it and say to a couple of people, "Hey, you could have made it a little bit less suspenseful." So there's that margin again. And if you're looking at that margin and you're politically savvy at all, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that 7-letter word, recount. Yeah. What is the status of that? Well, we don't know definitively, but we do know a couple of things. But I'm going to make you wait. Call that a tease in the business first. Let me thank my Daily Pulse sponsor. We'll get back to the recount after a word from our commercial sponsors. Thank you to Ray Booten, licensed realtor in Mass and New Hampshire, certified appraiser in both states as well. Find him online, realestaterayBooten.com. Thanks as well to WellPoint. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. Washington Savings Bank, banking that feels like home. Make the switch now to Washington Savings Bank. TMI Properties, TMI Cares, developing and managing their own properties for over 30 years. Experience the quality, the care, and the value of making TMI the choice for your home. Mahoney Oil, providing warmth and protection to Greater Lowell and Southern New Hampshire since 1925. The Greater Lowell Community Foundation, improving the quality of life in our communities through strategic, impactful philanthropy. Francis E. Preventure Insurance, the agency Greater Lowell has counted on to protect its most valuable assets since 1982. We now returned to our regularly scheduled programming and the recount count. All right, so Bill Samaras, you've run, you've won, you've lost. Yeah. You've never been in a 4-vote race, but I want to put you in that seat. Yeah. You lose by 4 votes. Are you going to the elections office and saying, I'd like to request a recount?
I think I would have to. If I lost by 20, 25, 30 votes, I wouldn't be happy, but I'd probably walk away. But losing by 4 votes, I would always question myself whether I should have or shouldn't have done that, and why would I leave that on the table? The issue is, it's simply a recount, and it costs some money, not a tremendous amount of money, but it's money that you can use your political funds to pay the lawyers the necessary, and you have to get some volunteers ready to observe the process.
So
it's a process.
I've got some info on that from Will Rosenberry, but before that, I want to say that you may be in Dan Finn's head, because I spoke to as many candidates as I could last night and this morning as well. And when I talked to Dan last night, he said to me, I would rather have lost by 100 votes than 4, he said, because then I would at least be able to sleep.
Yeah.
So
I did what I could. Okay, it's over.
So to me, that's his answer about whether he should go for a recount. First of all, I'm the news guy. I'd love to extend this election another couple of weeks and have some more stories to write about and talk about with you and others. But what he said, if I lost by 100, okay, I good battle, I came close, but it just wasn't meant to be. You lose by 4, you're always going to be questioning that. And to get that peace of mind, to get that closure, do it. Now, people have said, but it's going to cost them money. We remember the Lori Trahan and Dan Coe recount, and everybody talked about they were doing fundraising based off that.
Correct.
So I spoke to Will Rosenberry today. First, I wanted to know, are there any provisional ballots? Are there any challenged ballots? Any outstanding military overseas ballots that could make a difference in that race? And the answer is not enough. There is one challenged ballot that might, be decided. We don't know what that ballot is. There are no provisional ballots, and let me just make sure he hasn't updated me. He has not. There is military ballots are mailed overseas. He did not mail any in that district, he told me. However, there's another mechanism whereby people who are traveling can request an electronic ballot, and they can choose. They have to send it back electronically by 8 p.m. on election night, last night, or if for some strange reason they receive it electronically but choose to send it in the mail, then he has to give them the same 10 days he gives the military. It doesn't appear that those ballots are there in terms of enough to make us say, hey, all the votes have not been counted yet. But you do get into, do machines make errors? Were some ovals filled in properly? Did a machine miscalculate? The numbers do switch every now and then here. So if Dan Finn and his camp is watching, or anybody else, Will Rosenberry had told me he has 10 days to certify the election. 10 days after last night, Will Rosenberry must certify the election results to the Secretary of State's office and for everybody else. Dan Finn must ask for a recount. It's not automatic. He must request it. He must file a petition for a recount within those 10 days. If that deadline passes of 5 p.m. November 14th or 15th, whatever the date is, at 5:05 p.m., if Dan Finn says, I want a recount, he can't get it. It's too late. The results have been certified. So Dan Finn has to make up his mind in the coming days whether to file that petition. Will it cost him any money? I mentioned the Trahan Coe race to Will Rosenberry. He said, no, it will cost the city money. He says, because I now have to bring poll workers to come in and count those ballots, probably need an attorney on hand in case any challenges. Where Dan Finn, Belinda Duran, or anybody who asks for a recount may incur a cost is, do they want to hire an attorney to look into ballots, an attorney familiar with election law to look in and challenge it, or you can maybe pay Greg Pappas to do it, and do you want to have volunteers there to witness each and every ballot as it gets recounted? So that would be the only cost. So apparently it's a cost to the city, but not to Dan Finn or Belinda Duran unless they choose to incur such costs.
And if you're going to ask for a recount, why wouldn't you do that? I mean, why ask for a recount and not do that?
Again, I'd want an attorney there. What's another couple of $100 or $1,000 or whatever that number turns out to be? At this point, So somebody in the know just texted me a little while ago, not Dan Finn, not Belinda Duran, not anybody, but somebody who knows these things and may have talked to one of these candidates. I feel a recount is about to happen. Yeah. I do too. I think for his own peace of mind, just kind of based on our conversations last night.
Let's put it this way:
Dan Finn wants to.
I don't. If if Dan Finn is asking people, what do you think I should do? I mean, that's normal. Afterwards, you want as many opinions from people that you respect as you can. I don't see anyone saying, I wouldn't bother, Dan. You know, just let
the Durant's people might say.
let it go.
So here's another interesting little tidbit from last night. So Dan Finn had his election night party at Cobblestones, sponsor of InsideLowell.com. Great place to book your holiday party, Cobblestones, downtown Lowell. Belinda Duran was at the Old Worthen. Dan Finn walked over to the Old Worthen and gave a speech, to much applause, and congratulated Belinda on a great campaign. And there were people who said to me, it sounded like he conceded the race. And I did a little back and forth. I'm like, well, I've been talking to him. He's considering a recount. I don't know what he said. I don't know if him congratulating her on the campaign was reconstrued. He did acknowledge the 4-vote margin, but
don't forget, you. It's what you want to hear sometimes that you.
That's what I'm wondering.
That you hear.
Did some of the people in that room think they heard a concession, or heard somebody say, "Hey, either way, it was a great campaign, 2 great candidates. We were cordial, we were nice, But Dan Finn has clearly indicated to me that he is thinking heavily about a recount.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think if Belinda had lost, she would have gone to him. There's no.
I would tell, and I would tell her also to do the same thing. Belinda, please ask for a recount, just so we can all stop wondering about it.
That's right.
All right.
You know, I mean, it's a natural scene. That's what should happen. But the thing is, let's go recount. The thing is, Dan Finn went to Belinda's thing. That's showing character. I believe she would have done the same thing. 100%.
Two great candidates. Two great candidates.
From what I could gather from sources I heard was that he was kind and cordial, but just thinking about what he should do, whether he should have a recount or not.
And clearly it was 9:30, 9 o'clock at night, whenever that happened.
And you're exhausted.
So you're too close to the fire after a long election.
No, you're exhausted.
Campaign. Yeah.
You're exhausted.
I'm not sure he could even make a decision today, whatnot. But we'll see. We'll report it. 2 things I want to point about. First of all, historically, I'm told there was a race, and I can't remember if it was governor's council or something else, where Bobby Kennedy won was it Bobby Kennedy who won the race by 1 vote? The former Lowell councilor and mayor, or lost the race by 1 vote. There was a 1-vote race, and every now and then you see these races that are so close that highlight the message. Every vote does count. Most of the times we're not having these conversations. But just in case, everybody who's thinking of voting for somebody, get your freaking ass to the polls and vote for them. And to the candidates, never give up on a vote. Go knock those doors at 5:30, 6:30 at night, like Sean McDonough was doing last night. Never take it for granted until 8:01 p.m. and the polls have closed and you can't do anything else, because sometimes every 20 years, 30 years, it does come down to 1 vote or 4 votes. Crazy stuff, Bill.
Mistakes can happen. That's it. But the thing is, you're clear. There comes a time when you have to use the process. That's why the process was developed. Simple.
100%. We touched on Sean McDonough, the hard work he did. I got a text from somebody at 5:30 last night. Sean McDonough just had somebody knock on my door in what we call Belayville now, by the way, the other side of the Merrimack River in the Sausage District. I said that story during our election night coverage. We went on the air from 7 to 8. At some point in that first hour, I mentioned that anecdote. And somebody texted me, goes, now it's 7:15 on election night. He's in Back Central right now knocking doors. And Back Central, what we also like to call Portuguesville here in Lowell, right? A lot of Portuguese voters still live there. At one time, very active, probably not active for a long time, because I would guess the last time anybody really took them seriously or really worked them hard was Joe Mendonça, when he was when he was a counselor.
Most counselors, especially when we were citywide, you get yourself involved.
That was fertile ground.
Yeah, it was.
One thing I learned over the weekend.
Because if you went there and you did some work, you got rewarded.
So Sean McDonough did the work there. I learned over the weekend that Sean McDonough speaks fluent Portuguese. Imagine that, Sean McDonough. Can you get a more Irish name? Fluent Portuguese. When he was knocking on those doors in Back Central, he spoke Portuguese to those people. I'd be curious to look at those final numbers and see how much of a jump there was from 2023 and 2021 from that particular neighborhood.
I think you would see that because, I mean, there's pride when someone can speak your language.
I think he won one of those Rogers School things, 87-70, which he should have. He thought he was going to lose. Yeah. He had said to me prior to the election, if I can be within 50 votes coming out of the STEM Academy, the Rogers School, I win the race. He said that to me, and when I saw him win one of those precincts by 17, I said, "Oh, this kid's got a shot." Yeah. I did say to him last night, I said, I never knew you spoke Portuguese. We've had a number of conversations. When he first declared, I had a 2-hour conversation with him, and we've had a number of conversations since. I said, how come I never knew you spoke fluent Portuguese? He said, I didn't want anybody to know it. Otherwise, Wayne JNS might have found some supporters who spoke Portuguese and had them knocking doors. I said to myself, that's smart.
You know what?
That's a politically smart kid.
He's absolutely right.
Yeah, but don't let Wayne JNS and his people know that you speak Portuguese. Because if I'm Wayne JNS, I go find a Joe Mendonça type and say, "Can you go knock doors for me or whatever?" Yeah. Smart play. The other story that we can, and by the way, there's the numbers there. Sean McDonough 410, Wayne JNS 358. Not a bad turnout. For the downtown district. District 5, Kim Scott, absolutely smoking. Sherry O'Connor, Barbosa. Surprised at all? No. It's, by the way, Kim Scott's margin of victory is getting bigger with each and every election. Tooch Van was the closest in 2021. Susie Chun, who I thought was a better candidate than any of them.
She's been working hard in her district.
Yes, she did.
So you get rewarded by that.
Yep. District 7, Paul Ratayem losing pretty handily to Sidney Liang. Paul's vote totals fell significantly. I think he went from 454 in 21 to 335 in 23 to 303 here. Sidney Liang did a lot of work. Sidney Liang was a very good candidate, did a lot of work. He's been
really involved in the community. So that makes the difference. I
spoke to Paul last night. He told me he's reaching out to Sidney Liang to concede. It was very early. It was the first race we called. I said to him, hey, great time. Thank you for your service. Paul did a lot of things behind the scenes that will probably come out in the coming weeks and months. But he said to me, he goes, thank you. He goes, I'm disappointed, but I'm at peace.
Yeah.
He said, he didn't lose by 4 votes. So he has peace. Marcos Candido. Okay. Yeah. So John Dakota won.
Yep.
And he got 801 votes in 2023. He got to 724 after finishing second in the preliminary in September. He got to 724. John Dakota got his vote out.
Yeah.
Marcos Candido got a lot of new voters out. This kid, neophyte, came onto the scene. 15 plus 24, 39 votes.
Yeah.
39 votes behind an incumbent who romped in his first run in 2023. What does this race tell us about what I have dubbed the left versus Lowell? The left taking over the city?
The thing is, for someone like me to see Mandami, how he won New York, with the promises that he's been making, I mean, it's unbelievable as far as I'm concerned. But the thing is, the socialist movement is moving at this particular time.
Young people are more enamored with socialism and communism than any previous generation.
Right.
40% of people under 25 believe that communism/socialism is a better form of government than capitalism.
And the sales pitch for that is, if there are good people doing that, it's a great system. And I'm saying, I love the system that we have, and it seems what happens every so many years, we drift that way. Countries drift that way, and the parties that have been in power all of a sudden recognize that they better make some serious changes. And right now, I mean, there are people going to bed hungry. There are people who don't have homes, and there has to be some changes made.
And in 2026, we'll see this play out on a big scale across the country with 435 congressional seats up for grabs. And what's that number going to be in the Senate? Was it 1/3 of them every year? So 17 or 18.
Well, if the present people in Congress don't recognize that some major change can take place, we're in trouble.
Last night's results, those results show that you can change things even against an incumbent.
Yes.
Right? Look at that. So I do want to take a moment of personal privilege, though, to address this. And let me tell you that I like Marcos Candido. If you, as a kid, as a person, as a young man, he was good in the first interview we did, and I praised him for doing something that no other challengers do. He differentiated himself from John Dakota, and then he lumped Cisco Maldonado into the same camp as the establishment of John Dakota for a political neophyte. Great strategy or whatnot. And he worked, and he had a lot of people behind him that worked. I don't have an issue with Marcos Candido. I strongly disagree with your politics. Marcos, please move off that socialism stuff. You can help people without moving to socialism. I beg you to look at Venezuela, Cuba, Soviet Union, Russia, China. Their people are not better off than the American people. With all our wars here in America, socialism/communism is not the answer. But that said, he didn't run from it. He didn't hide from it. He posted the endorsement from the Democratic Socialists of America, the Boston chapter. These people worked for him. And last night, a friend of mine received a call from the Candido campaign. Again, these last-minute get-out-the-vote things. Again, another way electioning has changed, right? You're getting last-minute calls. He set up phone banks. He set up door knocking. He did all that. He ran a, dare I say, congressional-style campaign and almost won a city council seat. But the kid who called my friend, she pushed for some questions and eventually identified he was from Methuen, and he was calling to support Marcos Candido for the Auto Workers Union and for the Democratic Socialists of Boston. First of all, do we have an active auto workers union in Lowell, Massachusetts? Did Henry Ford ever open a plant? We don't have an auto workers union in Lowell. We have them outside of Lowell, maybe, outside of Massachusetts, definitely. The Democratic Socialists of Lowell, the Democratic Socialists of Boston and of America. Where are they sticking their nose in? Do they understand the Lowell issues? No, they understand national issues, global issues that they're fighting, but can you apply a one-size-fits-all global model to Lowell, to Dracut, to Tewksbury, to wherever?
They see opportunity and they jump in. That's all.
Yeah.
It's a jump. But as I was saying before, I still talk to a lot of my former students and what have you, and I've had former students tell me, but Mr. Samaras, they're going to do it better. I said, communism doesn't work for me. It never will.
Look.
But you don't understand, Mr. Mayor. If we do it, socialism, it's the right way to go.
This is where our education system has failed us at the university level and at K through 12. These kids do not know their history. And all I will tell people again, Marcos, please, let's go grab a beer, a cup of coffee, whatever. You have a real world study. Germany, East Germany and West Germany. Within Germany, Berlin, East Berlin, West Berlin. The experiment has been conducted. We know how it turns out. They didn't build a wall in East Germany and East Berlin to keep people from flooding over there because life was better. Look at Cuba, look at Venezuela. Please, Lowell, please start to reject this. But my real bone to pick isn't with the kid calling from Methuen or for the Democratic Socialists of Boston. There are Lowell organizations. And I'm not going to name the organization yet because I want to make sure I get the right organization. But there's this little what I'm going to call an unholy alliance of nonprofits in Lowell who are supposedly getting money to get out the vote. Lowell Votes, which has now become, I don't know if it's become the Lowell Alliance or whatever, but the CBA, the Coalition for a Better Acre, used to be the fiscal agent for Lowell Votes. It's now the Lowell Alliance. They were running this kind of candidate seminar in the spring, and they reached out to me to give them some credit. They wanted to come in and do a podcast. And I asked a couple of questions. I wanted to know about funding, where they were getting their funding. Would a MAGA candidate be invited to come participate in their seminar and get free advice and have resources to mount the campaign? And they had all these speakers coming in to talk to them. Needless to say, the podcast never happened because I think they understood that I was not going to be a big supporter of this. However, Marcos Candido's candidacy for city council was announced to me by the person who was reaching out to me on behalf of that organization. This person emailed me and said, hey, just so you know, here's a candidate, Marcos Candido. Please reach out to him. And I did. Yeah. Same person told me Sherry O'Connor Barbosa is also running. Reach out to her. So, and again, you want to advocate, that's okay. But if you are getting taxpayer dollars, whether from the city of Lowell or from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and you are indirectly funneling those dollars from housing, from food banks, or feeding the hungry, or for whatever, and you're funneling them into campaign and voter recruitment that leads to people from outside the city getting in here and getting involved in Lowell's elections, now we got a problem. And I promise you I will spend the next 2 years digging deeper into this little money trail and seeing where it comes from. Because if Marcos Candido, Lowell resident, is a socialist and wants to run for city council, God bless him. I admire the kid and how he finished. But if he's getting pushed on people by outsiders who do not have the city's best interests in heart, but instead have a global political agenda at heart, now we've got a problem. Yeah. That's my point of personal privilege, Mr. Samaras, sir.
Well, actually, we do. I mean, that's it. But the thing is, our own government officials are not acting properly. I mean, with what's going on in Washington, the fighting that's going on, the extreme right and the extreme left. Mm-hmm. Have no use for. I call myself a Clinton centrist. I don't know what that means anymore.
Those days are gone. You saw it in New York City last night, didn't you? But what I want to know, and this is for you, Manager Golden or CFO Connor Baldwin, whoever has that information, how much money is the city of Lowell providing to organizations, or is the state funneling through the city of Lowell to organizations to quote unquote get out the vote, when in reality they are political action committees who are specifically pushing a certain agenda, ideology, and certain candidates over the others? Lowell Votes was out knocking doors in previous elections, pushing ballot initiatives, pushing whatever, instead of getting people out to vote. They were doing it under the guise of one and then doing the other. I want to know if that is still going on right now under a different name instead of Lowell.
Well, actually, Lowell's been a victim of outside sources coming in, making changes in Lowell, because it was opportunity or opportunistic to be able to do that, to come into Lowell. So, I mean, when we had to change how we vote, I mean, most of it was from people from the outside. And the issue,
only two of them are still left in the city, right?
And the issue, right or wrong, I mean, we couldn't go. If we went to court, we would have lost badly, because it's the way it is.
Interestingly enough, there's a Supreme Court case that's being heard right now about Louisiana that may change that consent decree and whether Lowell can have 2 majority-minority districts. For the record, I still like the 8 district councilors and the 3 at-large councilors. I'd like to stay there, whatever happens with the Supreme Court case. Whether you need to have majority-minority districts, let's let the courts decide that. Quite frankly, it hasn't helped Lowell's Hispanic population. I doubt it's going to help the Nigerian or Northern African population or the Portuguese, Brazilian population. The Southeast Asian population is firmly entrenched in the city of Lowell. You can see it right there. Vesna Noon, the ticket topper for the 3rd time in 4 elections. We've we've established political parity with at least the Southeast Asian population in the city of Lowell. We haven't helped anybody else, though, and I know it's a sticking point for the Hispanic population in the city.
I mean, we have to do things that create opportunity. And to me, this election shows that opportunity does exist in the city. And I think that's important. But it exists if you work for it.
Work. It's a dirty four-letter word in some cases.
But it's if you work for it and you're willing to take part in the process and make the process work even better. Mm-hmm. That's what we need. We need people. Let's put it this way. I remember when flag raising, it was the Laotian flag raising. The gentleman came up there and he said, the one thing about this country, he said, when my wife and I came here, we knew the streets of Lowell, or the streets in this country, were paved with gold. Do you know why we knew that? He said, because I got 2 jobs and she got 2 jobs. And we were able to put our children in college. They've gone to college. They're successful and doing well. That's what this country gave us. I mean,
it gives you an opportunity. It doesn't give you a promise.
And the idea of the streets are paved with gold, he said, I worked for it. And I was able to do it. And I think what's happened a little bit in today's society with the economy, it's harder. And what our politicians have to do is they have to wake up and attend to the matter.
All right. A couple of other things before we wrap up and get to the final question that everyone's asking, along with will there be a recount? All the political insiders are asking, who will be Lowell's next mayor? Or will we have the same mayor? We got some information on that. Again, here's another tease for you, but I won't break for commercial. Instead, Marty Laurie had said in the last couple of days that the Belinda Duran-Dan Finn race was a test run for the Vanna Howard, Rodney Elliott case in Belvedere and throughout the district. If that is the case, I'm not sure it applies. It could. I'll leave that possibility open. But if that's the case, who's feeling better this morning, Vanna Howard or Rodney Elliott, based on Belinda Duran and Dan Finn?
I don't think either one can make a judgment because it was a tie.
I believe the tie is somewhat to the benefit of Rodney Elliott.
For all intents and purposes.
Because the conventional wisdom was Belinda Duran was going to win that race. Right. And this goes back to the preliminary, which she won. And then the general, she was a great candidate. She was a very polished candidate, researched everything, done. She was as good a first-time candidate as I have seen in the city of Lowell. You know, I remember Derek Mitchell, great campaign and whatnot. I remember others. Belinda Duran was as good as you get in terms of being prepared and articulate. Yeah. I thought she would win by a lot more until I started hearing from people in your neighborhood. No, Dan Finn is close. Dan Finn is close, and he was. So a lot of Belinda Duran supporters are Vanna Howard supporters.
Yeah, correct.
Does this mean that she's unbeatable in Belvedere? Or at the very least, can Rodney Elliott be close enough in Belvedere and in downtown? Vanna Howard's other base, right? Which went for Sean McDonough as opposed to Wayne Jeunesse, who goes hand in hand with Vanna Howard. Can Rodney Elliott stay close enough in District 3 to prevail in the rest of Lowell and Dracut, Tyngsboro, Pepperell, and Dunstable?
Well, the thing is, I think the position is that they're going for is so big. It is a big. To be a state senator, you're one of 40, and I really think that they're equal at this particular point. I don't think Belinda or Dan can deliver for them. Can help them, but not deliver the area.
This seat may be one I thought Belvedere would still determine this race. This race may be determined in the other towns.
I think so.
When push comes to shove. All right. Turnout. We praise, almost 2,300 votes in Belvedere, and we got to over 1,400 in the Upper Highlands. The two powerful districts turned out well. And yet, despite all that, the turnout Unofficial turnout, 8,494 voters, less than 1,000 more than the pathetic turnout of 2023. Out of the 77,624 registered voters in the city, that's a 10.94% turnout.
I mean,
that's still bad.
Many of us were talking about, if we're lucky, 16, thinking that, okay, maybe it'll drop to 14, not 8. That's a big difference.
Hardworking candidates. Marcos Candido energized the Highlands. Belinda and Dan energized Belvedere, which doesn't need much of an energy boost. But Sidney Liang increased the turnout in the Acre. All of this, and yet still 11% of the turnout.
But that's why I say hard work is the issue, because you have to. I mean, somebody asked about Paul Rathayem's campaign. I said, if I were Paul Rathayem, I would go, anybody I went to the house, I'd say also, I'm going to have a bus for you on the day of the election. And it'll be down there to pick you up. It'll have coffee from Dunkin' Donuts, and I'll get you to the campaign. I think you had to do things like that. I think that's part of the future.
In those districts where, 700 votes, you got, about 773 in District 5. We even had the unchallenged, uncontested races. I looked at those numbers because I remember Tom Golden. Tom Golden used to get always nervous around election time, and he was running unopposed. And I'd always say to him as state rep, what the hell are you nervous about, dude? There's nobody on the ballot. He goes, I need to top 80%. He goes, if I drop under 80%, that tells me that I'm not doing my job right and people are unhappy with me. Now, I will put this caveat in there that I think that requirement has changed. I think now maybe 70% is the number, because I started looking at this number. Lori Trahan ran unopposed in 2024. Seth Moulton ran unopposed. Moulton, I think, barely got to 70%. Lori Trahan was under 75%, which to me showed a slight weakness. Is she going to lose? Probably not. But if I were her, I'd pay attention. Dan Rourke ran unopposed. 799 people filled in the Oval for him out of 1,001 who turned out in Pawtucketville. 79.82%. 80%. That's a good number. 𝐃𝐚𝐢𝐥𝐲, 641 people voted in District 6, 504 filled in the Oval for 𝐃𝐚𝐢𝐥𝐲, 78.62%. Good number, especially when you consider that divide, right? In that Southeast Asian community. The one that jumped out at me, Corey Robinson, District 2. 726 ballots in Centerville, which, by the way, again, shows why the turnout. He energized about 1,500 voters, he and Bob Gignac, in 2021. 726. 550 people filled in the Oval for him. The math on that? 75.75%. 76% of the people. Now, a few points below 𝐃𝐚𝐢 and Rourke. But 𝐃𝐚𝐢 and Rourke didn't have the 2-year run that Corey Robinson had, the legal case, other challenges and whatnot. Dare I say, Corey Robinson's district, District 2, Centerville, likes the job that he is doing. If he can pull those numbers in a 2-year cycle where he faced a lot of challenges, he's a strong candidate. And again, as these numbers show you, look at Candido, look at McDonough, look at Liang. Nobody is unbeatable. But if you're going to beat Corey Robinson in Centerville and you're thinking you're going to make hay with the legal case from 2023, that's ancient history. You've got to beat him on issues.
No question about that. No, I mean, those numbers are significant. A lot of people don't realize that. The thing is, if you really are in a place where a candidate doesn't have a challenger, the one way you can hurt them or affect them is to leave the ballot empty. Some people feel that you just have to fill it in. If there's nobody there, you just fill it in because it's there. But I'll tell you, I mean, you're right. If you're a candidate and all of a sudden it falls below 70% and it's in the 60s, it says change the way you're doing things or plan on having some real competition.
Yep. If I'm the Democratic Socialists of America or some other MAGA group, I'm looking for weakness in those candidates.
Absolutely.
You didn't see it in those 3 districts in Lowell.
No.
Which brings us to our final discussion. And since we mentioned Mayor Rourke, we know he'd like to be mayor again.
Correct.
He's made no secret of that. We know that 𝐥𝐻𝐻𝐿 has wanted to be mayor for a long time. I've reached out to both of them.
2 good men.
I reached out to Councilor Noon, who topped the ticket. I congratulated him on topping the ticket. He said, "Thank you, Teddy." I asked him if he's going to try to become mayor, and he went blank on me. Not surprising. You know 𝐥𝐻𝐻𝐿.
Yeah.
He wants to be mayor. He will at least make exploratory calls, won't he?
Correct.
Okay. Other people, maybe. Rita Mercier. People have thought about, is this her last term? I'm starting to think maybe not.
No.
But does she want to be mayor? I think she may want to be mayor. But she has said to me, and she confirmed it again this morning, Danny Rourke is doing an amazing job, has done an amazing job with the front-runner city thing coming down the pike. She believes he deserves another term, and she is committed, as of this morning, once again, to voting for Danny Mayor for Rourke. Danny Rourke for mayor. Danny Mayor for Rourke. Danny Rourke for mayor.
The front-runner city is an actual project, and I think it's going to become very important for Lowell. So
okay, Eric Gitchier. I asked him this morning. No, Eric not going to tip his hand. I think he would like to be at some point, but he's good at math.
Yeah.
Eric Gitchier is very good at math, and I think he understands it's tough for him to get 6 right now. Could he someday? You know, some people have said to me he's ticked off so many people that he'll never get those votes. I'll tell you that Rodney Elliott ticked off a bunch of people in 2009, 2011, and in 2013, he finally got his wish and was selected mayor. So I would not count Eric Gitchier out. Maybe this time, but not. So it's Rourke, Noon, maybe Mercier as could Mercier become a compromise candidate if neither can get to 6?
I think if Rita made a promise to Danny, I mean, she keeps her word. So the thing is, I don't think she's interested in being a compromise.
And with the front-runner city stuff, now that mayoral thing might become even more. I don't know where Rita is in her job and whatnot, but that alone would take Eric Gitchier out of the running, right?
It's not an easy job anymore.
No.
I mean, it really, the time requirements, I don't know how he does it, having a job and what have you, but they have to do a lot of balancing to be able to survive, and it's hard.
All right. So let's do some hypothetical math, because you are an insider in the political scene. I fancy myself as one, and I do talk to a lot of people, and I have received some information. And I may piss some folks off here, but Danny Rourke, 𝐥𝐻𝐻𝐿. All right, they each have 1 vote. They're going to vote for themselves.
Correct.
District 2, Corey Robinson.
I think Eric and Corey Robinson haven't identified where they're going.
They will probably push for Rita Mercier to be mayor, as they did. They were the 2 votes in 2023. If Rita's not even voting for herself, at some point they're going to have to make a decision. So we'll put those 2 aside for a minute there. District 3, Belinda Duran, maybe. Do we put her in 𝐥𝐻𝐻𝐿's camp?
I think she needs the time. I think to put her in anybody's camp at this point.
You didn't jump at that. That's interesting, Mr. Samaras. What do you know?
No, I don't know. What do I know? Somebody will say I don't know anything. But the issue is, as she is a candidate, I mean, at this particular point where she hasn't announced anything, I think she has to really go over this and talk to both candidates.
And by the way, most of the candidates will say what you just said. I need to talk to everyone who's interested and make up my mind. But We can guess that minds have been made up. Okay, so I'm going to say Belinda Duran is a Vezina Noon vote. But so just humor me. Let's give him a second.
Probably more so.
Okay,
because of support, as we said, from Von Howard.
Okay, let's go to Kim Scott. Any doubt that she's a Danny Rourke vote? There's Danny 2. So 𝐃𝐚𝐢𝐥𝐲, Danny Rourke. There's 3. Rita Mercier is the 4th. Let me do some. I'm missing. Oh, John Dakota. John Dakota, number 5. Now you'll say to me, where does number 6 come from for Danny Rourke? If Eric Gitcher and Corey Robinson hold out, if it's not going to be Belinda Duran and Dan Finn may not have a vote when all is said and done, it's not going to come from Vezina. Probably. Not going to come from, oh God, I'm drawing a blank. I have to see my districts here again. Not going to come from Sidney Liang. Yeah. Right? Sidney Liang is a Vezina Noon vote. Yeah. So there's 3 for sure for Vezina Noon, right?
Correct.
Is there a path to 6 for Vezina Noon? If Belinda Duran, Vezina Noon, and Sidney Liang, where does he get 3 more votes in that council field?
Well, he has to get Corey and Eric.
Can you ever see a day where Corey Robinson and Eric Gitcher vote for Vezina Noon for mayor?
All depends. It all depends on what they want to do down the road. Right. I mean, because they're an anomaly almost.
Right.
Okay. They're outside.
They're their own coalition. Correct.
Yes, they are.
Okay. But they do have to pick a side. They have to vote for somebody or a compromise candidate. Okay. So the key is can Vezina Noon or Danny Rourke
but they haven't made any commitment. The only one that they're trying to work on Rita to make a commitment.
Okay.
But Rita's made a commitment.
Right. So let's do the math for Dan Rourke then. Yeah. Dan Rourke, Rita Mercier, Kim Scott, so 𝐃𝐚𝐢𝐥𝐲, John Dakota, there's 5.
Yep.
Sean McDonough, haven't mentioned his name on purpose because you would think downtown, that's a Vezina Noon vote potentially, right? I think Sean McDonough is a Danny Rourke vote. I'm hearing rumblings that Sean McDonough will support Dan Rourke.
He announced it.
So you have heard it.
Yeah, he's announced it, and
he said it to people out there.
Yeah, and the issue is, he did well in Lower Pawtuckaville and Centerville and that part of the city, the Highlands.
So there's 6. If Sean McDonough is indeed a Dan Rourke vote, and he hasn't given me an official yes, he's talked about it. Others have said to me, well, you got to understand, he's the downtown representative. Where are these billions of promised dollars for frontrunner city initiatives going to go?
Downtown.
Most of them, I would say at least 75% of them, are going to downtown. If Sean McDonough plays his political cards right, and to this point, we've seen no indication that this kid's going to screw up because he was, the point of not letting anybody know he spoke fluent Portuguese until he started knocking doors and speaking Portuguese shows me a politically savvy kid. He could become a very powerful city councilor and have some major accomplishments to brag about in the 2027 election through the Frontrunner City Initiative, which, for better or worse, is tied to Dan Rourke.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, when you asked me about where's Belinda hasn't made an announcement, okay? So I'm saying it's up for grabs both ways, okay? That's been part of his campaign, what his thinking for the campaign. So he's supporting the frontrunner city issue there, and he's supporting the mayor who's, established that process. So
interesting. I could see a scenario where, if you remember in 2023, Vezina Noon tried to get the votes and realized there wasn't a path for him there. Ultimately, on the first ballot, he ends up voting. He and Wayne Jeunesse has said to me, I'll go with Vezina.
Yeah.
But if Vezina doesn't want to run anymore because the path isn't there, will go to Dan Rourke. And they both did, and it was a 9-2 vote.
Yeah.
Could we see the same thing happen now with Belinda Duran and even Vesna Noon once they realize that the path to 6 does not exist, that they too get on there, and then Cindy Liang comes along?
I don't know. There's been so much change that's taken place this election, so it's almost like anything goes. So I would say he might be hesitant to do that at this particular point, but the issue is I think Danny has the votes, and he has the votes because of the project. He's done a good job with that project. And the thing is, when you look at these companies, what they're looking for and what they have found in Lowell is stability. And the council hasn't radically changed. City manager's there, and if the mayor's there, it speaks well to what they don't have to start and stop.
When I was in Toronto, people involved with the Frontrunner City thing were surprised to find out that the mayor changes every 2 years. They thought there was some continuity. And once they realized that it does, and it comes down to the election, which was just a couple of weeks away at the time, a couple of them said to me, "What has to happen for Dan Rourke to become mayor again?" Yeah. And I said, "Tell me how the district and at-large races turn out, and then I'll tell you whether he's going to be mayor again or not." We saw how they turned out with one hanging Chad, as we'll call it, in District 3. I think Danny Rourke is going to be your next mayor. I think that's a good thing for the city. I also feel horribly for Vesna Noon because I do believe he's been a good counselor who at some point should be rewarded for that by getting a chance to become the mayor and hold the gavel.
There's no question about that. There's no question. But you've got two good people, but you've got an opportunity at this time. There's a certain set of circumstances that allow you, in a sense, to become mayor. And the issue is there have been other people who've have been mayor, twice, either 2 times in a row or twice during their career.
That's a very short list.
Very short.
That is a very short list.
It's just
Eileen Donahue. Oh God, who did consecutive terms? It was Eileen Donahue and one other person, 𝐃𝐚𝐢𝐥𝐲 Senior.
Yeah.
Right. And there were a couple that have done 2 terms, but not back to back.
Yeah, like Bud Cofield.
You, by the way, were for folks who may have forgotten their political history. You were the deciding vote into having another back-to-back mayor, Rodney Elliott. Right. The aforementioned Rodney Elliott. Voted mayor in 2013, served 2014 to 2015. He and Ed Kennedy were deadlocked. Yeah. And I remember teasing you at the time, saying, how the hell could you allow yourself in this position again to be the deciding vote? And you were torn over that. You almost voted for Rodney Elliott to serve back-to-back terms.
Well, the issue was, which I'll never forget, was, I got elected, and that night I was very happy. I was pleased with how the election turned out. And a reporter from Lowell Sun came up and said, "Well, who you vote for mayor?" And I remember saying, "Leave me alone. I want some time to talk to the candidates and think about it." But I said, "Let's see who's going to be voting for who." And she said, "It's already been picked, so,
It's 4-4. You're the deciding vote, sir."
I went home. My wife said, "You don't look happy. What's wrong? What's wrong?" I found out tonight. I mean, it was like...
So I remember that well, because I was doing radio and I was talking to you and I told you the same thing. Yeah. It's 4-4. I fully expected you to say Ed Kennedy, because the tradition was just keep it moving, rotate it, he was next in line. And you said to me, "I don't know, I might vote for Rodney." And it took you about a week to make your decision and your announcement. So let me ask you a question. For the folks who maybe, if there's still a chance that some horse trading can go on here, What goes into that decision? What commitments do you look for before you cast your vote for somebody for mayor? Or as you were involved in a mayoral vote where John Leahy thought he had the 5 votes, and it turned out that Ed Kennedy did not, end up voting for him as John Leahy thought, and instead voted for you. So you were on the right side of a 5-4 vote. What goes on behind the scenes? What are the counselors who are thinking about trying to get when they are deciding who to commit their vote to?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I was alone. I mean, I had a couple of people I talked to, but the thing is, I was all alone in it because there were 2 actually different candidates. And both had a different route that they were taking, and what I did is, using some courses that I had in college, this is his fine points, this is his bad points. Fine points, I did those things. I had more paper in my house thrown all over the house. My wife said, what are you doing? She said, that's what you did in college. Why are you doing this now? I said, because it's the only way. I said, I'm not, there's no deal I can make. Everybody's made their choice. There's nobody I can talk to, and so I talked to both candidates at some point. Then I said, give me some time to think, and I'll let you know.
Do you try to leverage a committee assignment? Is it if there's a particular committee that you're interested in serving on, or perhaps a policy? And again, you never know once the votes come, but you try to get a promise of, I will support this initiative of yours or this policy of yours. Do you try to get that?
No, at this point, I wasn't. It was not that important to me because the thing is, the vote was more important and how I get out of it. Okay, I mean,
you just knew somebody was going to be pissed off.
That's
all was said.
That's the point, and how people would look at it, because there were people will say, calling me and saying nice things why I should vote for Teddy, okay, and then other people calling, what they would do to me if I voted for Teddy, okay. So the thing is, I had to take all that in stride, and I made up my mind, and then I wrote out my own paper.
Okay. Yeah, you sent a very long statement explaining your decision. I'll wrap up by saying that was one of the most consequential decisions, your final decision, because if you remember, we then embarked on the high school location debate, and the mayor chairs the school committee. Ed Kennedy led the school committee to file that lawsuit, which was instrumental in getting the Mass School Building Authority to pause the process, which had been voted on in the city council. I often wonder if Bill Samaras said, you know what, Rodney did a really good job, which you said he did,
that's right,
had just given Rodney his vote, would we have a high school in Belvedere or in downtown today? It always comes back to that discussion, doesn't it?
Thank you for that.
But it was on it. So when you look back, as trivial as we thought the mayor's position used to be, and it was a ribbon kind of case. 2017 proved it is not.
It's not.
And front runner city is again proving it is not. So these decisions that the councils will make, these commitments they're making, have made, or will soon make on who's going to be the next mayor, they matter.
Yeah. Actually, the thing is, the only issue, the issue that did matter to me was the high school at the point.
Did you know when you voted for Ed Kennedy that was going to become a battle? Because I don't think any of us knew.
I knew it was still a battle.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't realize till, I'd say December of 2016 that there was a legitimate chance that they could have a new location.
It was still a battle.
Okay. All right.
It's the way it is.
All right. So we're in agreement that it was, to some degree, potentially a change election, an election that confirms if you work hard enough and you're a good enough candidate and can articulate a message, you could pull off a victory or come very close.
That's right.
And we both are in agreement that Dan Finch should ask for a recount.
Recount.
For me, it's purely selfish.
Correct.
I need something to talk about these next few weeks till the Howard Elliott race heats up. And we're both in agreement that Dan O'Rourke is very likely going to be your next mayor. It probably already has the vote secured.
Correct. Yeah.
Wow, we didn't disagree.
I mean, well, the thing is, like I said, and you're talking about good people. Look at this. I mean, the mayor's position, Vestano's certainly a good man, okay? Dan O'Rourke, both have proven.
You're close to both.
You know, I'm close to both, and they're both doing a good job. You have two new people, you know, you'd be happy with either one of them winning. And it comes down to, it's so close. We recommend that they should have a count so everybody goes to sleep well that night. And the thing that I think we both agree in, because a lot of people are saying it won't happen, if you work hard and run the right type of campaign, you can change things, even with candidates who are doing their job. Because usually the change is because somebody had a vote, they made a stupid vote, or they did whatever, something that was bizarre that people didn't like, and they lose the election.
Right. That's the final word on this morning after the 2025 Lowell municipal election, which may still have a little bit of counting to go on. We'll try to get more information on that. Bill Samaras, as always, thank you. Next week, we're going to talk to John Wooding.
Oh, that should be
from UMass
great
Lowell.
Meeting.
Going to be a fun discussion.
Absolutely.
Certainly will be. Thank you for tuning in as well. And again, I want to thank my election team last night, our election team here at Inside Lowell, Erin Gendron, who literally, before the polls closed, told you that Belvedere race is going to be close. It's going to be within 25 votes. She almost freaking nailed it. Little did she know how close it was going to be. But Jim Leary, John Leahy, Jerry Nutter, Asa Stutz, Ryan Gilday, the Lowell Citizen. Unfortunately, Greg Pappas, a little bit under the weather, couldn't join us, but he'll be back soon enough. So we'll turn our attention eventually to that state Senate race. We still got some work to do on the municipal election. Will there be a recount, and who will be the next mayor? Stay with Inside Lowell, InsideLowell.com. Watch the Daily Pulse. Drops every day at noon for information, and as more developments become known, we'll be able to get them to you right away. So thank you to all. As we like to say, Inside Lowell. If Lowell is your home, this is your place. Till next time, stay safe, everybody. Stay warm. We'll see you on the other side.